Hi, how are you?
Hey Simran, good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I
Good.
am really glad that in the midst of all this work, we are able to take out some time and, have this conversation. I'm really glad.
Yes, I'm glad that we connected and have a chance to talk about some things that have been on both of our minds lately.
Yes, definitely. I think it's a lot to, go ahead with this conversation because I know we've planned so many times and then, it's got rescheduled because of our work schedules. So I'm glad that finally we are here. And mostly we'll be talking about the same, how, work has been and how taking out time could also be difficult.
Right. I think it's right on par with our topic today of burnout because constantly rescheduling because of having being double booked or triple booked or
Yeah.
feeling, a little under the weather, or having a cold or all of those things. So, yes, our time leading up to this has definitely highlighted the importance of this topic.
Yes, definitely. I would like to, introduce myself, but before I do that, I would love if I can get to know something about you as well.
Yeah, thanks. So we met just having a conversation on LinkedIn about our commonalities, and some of the commonalities that we have is that both of us have this interest in, mental health and well-being, and that's in my background, and I am working hard on trying to define myself not by my actual job title. So I'll share a few things that I'm interested in. Health promotion is a topic that I've been studying for a while. The topic of preventing burnout is also something that I'm very interested in for my own personal experiences and really helping myself to thrive and then others to thrive. And as you can tell by my background, I love the
Me
outdoors
too.
and really find that connecting with nature is one of those things that helps me to prevent some of those areas of burnout. So, how about you?
That's a great introduction to, beat, I would say. But yes, there's no competition here. I would just introduce myself as a mental health practitioner who's been working in the field for almost 4 years now. But I would say it's a long way to go ahead because it's just the start. And as you said correctly, burnout is really important because to address it, because being a mental health professional, I think I would understand it the best listening to people all day and, and different stories, different issues, and it can take a toll on anybody's mind. So I would say yes, apart from that, I have learned the hard way to keep my personal and professional life different. But now I think I am on track with it, and I would love to share some insights with you and people hearing out today or seeing us or seeing this video.
Yeah, I would love that. Let's kick it off. What are some of the top lessons that you've learned and maybe some tips of how to address those things, those lessons and live out those lessons in our own lives? That would be great. I'm really interested in that.
Right. See, what I learned is basically, first of all, to set boundaries is really important, whether in any field of work that we are in, whether it is a creative field, whether it is a corporate job, whether it's a freelance job, or it's a business. Whatever
Mhm.
model we are working on, it we need to set our boundaries that, maybe 9 to 5, that's our work time. Beyond that, maybe few days or some days could exceed, say, 5:30 or 6. But post that, we should understand that, we can't be attending calls or reverting back to mails at 12 a.m. or 1 a.m. at the night. We can't be checking our phone for professional conversations after work
Right.
because that gets toxic to some level. It might not affect you initially. You might feel like, no, I'm giving hard work. There's a very thin line between hard work and setting boundaries that, the work is getting toxic and there's pressure with that. So we need to maintain that. We need to understand that, of course, hard work, effort, everything is necessary and it will lead to growth only. But setting boundaries at the same time is really necessary. For example, as a fresher, you'll be like, no, I want to give all in. I want to give everything. Whether if my supervisor or manager is asking for 2 to 3 extras on a daily basis, I can give in because I do have the time right now. But later, when responsibilities increase, when you become more experienced, these 2 to 3 hours will look like a baggage, add as a burden to your life. You won't be able to spend time with your friends or family, and those relationships will start hampering over the long period. So I would say setting boundaries and clear ones are really important as a first step. What's your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something for me, it's so easy to say, well, set boundaries. But it was my lack of boundaries that caused me to become burned out in the first place. I thought I had good boundaries. And in some of my colleagues' minds at my former institution, I did have really good boundaries. But in reality, because the work culture expected us to be on 24/7, if I ever did anything that conflicted with that work, it was considered setting a boundary, and it was just an unrealistic expectation to be available at all of those times. And so I had to set even further boundaries in my new role to really protect that time. And it is very hard because for a lot of us, no one I don't think most of us want to feel like we're disappointing other people. And if someone's
Of course.
asking you to do something that is going to go into your evening time or go into your weekend time, and that's not normally a part of the job, you have to think, what helps me is thinking saying yes to this means saying no to something else. And sometimes that yes, even though that yes feels really good in the moment, what we have to say no to might be something that we actually really need in our lives to help us restore and refresh, like you were saying. And so it is that really good um, level set that you have to have with yourself and think about the life that you want to lead. And if you say that you're valuing your family and friends, and yet whenever something from work comes up, you ignore them and focus on work, what is the actual value then? And it was a hard conversation I had to have with myself because I realized actually I'm not living out that value of family and friends, because when work comes up, I will say, sorry, I have to work. But I really
Of
wasn't
course.
that sorry, obviously, because I was still going into work. So it's a hard conversation that you have to have, but a very real conversation. And if you're at that season in your life where work is the highest value for you, then that is the season you're at. And we have to sometimes go through those seasons in order to recognize that cycle of life and to get to a certain spot in our career that we really want. But just be honest with yourself then, because otherwise you're just going to feel guilty all the time because you're not spending your time where you say or think your values should be. And just be honest about the situation and say, right now, my priority and focus is on my career, and I'm going to put in this time. I have these goals, and eventually it will shift to family and friends. And or if it's family and friends, then focus on your family and friends and don't feel guilty about not spending time on your career. But whatever stage you're at, just be honest about what stage you're at, and try to ensure that those relationships don't totally slip away.
No, I totally agree with you on this because it does happen. It happens with everyone. It could be me, it could be you, or your
Mhm.
friends, my friends. That you do give in a little more initially at a job to just maintain a reputation or impress or show your skills to the fellow teammates or your manager or supervisor. So you tend to focus more on that, and then you forget your relations. Maybe you avoid a Saturday evening plan, a date, a movie plan, or dinner. You ignore that once, twice. That person whom you're going with might understand for once or twice, but if it is on a loop or it's a cycle, then they might leave you.
Yeah.
Because priorities, setting priorities is what I would come to next. After
Mhm.
boundaries, it's also important to know what your priorities are. To understand, yes, work is a priority, but of course, family is also family or relationships, or in that case, relationship with yourself. What are your hobbies? It's not
Mhm.
necessary that everyone is in a relationship or has a family, but there's a relation with yourself as well. And that's the
Yeah.
first and foremost relation that you need to take care of. So self introspection on a daily basis is really needed, which I learned through this practice of mine. Because you need to spend
Mm,
some time with yourself to understand what do you want? What do I want?
mhm,
What is something that gives me happiness? Because at the end
mhm.
of the day, I'm going to bed with myself. My work is not coming with me. My colleagues are not coming
Yeah.
with me. Nothing else. But still, it's funny though we do think about our work. Okay, what's the next day's plan? Okay, what do I have to do tomorrow? What
Yeah.
do I eat tomorrow? So that all goes in your head while you're sleeping. But actually, if you see, you're going to bed with yourself. So focus on yourself first, I would say.
Mhm.
Priority is the second thing then.
Yeah. How did you get to that place where you were able to spend that time? So many people, myself included, it takes a lot of discipline to be able to say, okay, this part of my day is for my career. This part of my day is for me. This part of my day is for my family and friends. This part of my day is for my volunteer work. How did you get to that place where you were able to do that?
No, of course, I do understand that, it takes a lot of courage and a lot of
Mhm.
precision to get to that point because it's difficult, honestly. Because I can say this now that yes, I can draw boundaries or I know what my
Yeah.
priorities are just because I have been in the field for 4 years. I've gone through that phase of overwork, overburden, and
Mhm.
saying yes to everything. That okay, if a client
Yeah.
calls me for an inquiry on a Sunday and they want a session immediately, I would give that.
Mm.
But now
Wow.
I know that, of course, if there's an emergency, I would cater to it right now as well. But
Mhm.
unless it's not an emergency, earlier I used to take normal sessions also, like where they could have waited another day for a Monday maybe,
Mhm.
right? So now that I have gone through a lot because of this, maybe I've missed plans with my friends, family. Maybe I missed my own time watching. If I am someone who likes to watch movies and series, so
Yeah.
I do spend a lot of time there as well. But that reduced slowly. I did not get time. So when a few of my friends used to discuss some new movies or series, I was like, oh, when did this come out? I don't know. So I was
Right.
in that phase. Yeah, so slowly I realized that, I need to set boundaries for myself because it's taking a toll on my social life, my personal
Mm.
life. So I need to say a no. If the client really wants help or really needs therapy, they would reach out to
Yeah.
me on a Monday. So I know that it is important to cater to the client's needs, but not at the cost of your own needs. So if
Mm.
you see that, there are so many stores or restaurants that might be closed on one single day of the week. It could be a weekday also. Some clinics
Mhm.
or, there are some doctors or practitioners who keep their working days only 3 or 4 days a week. So people
Mhm.
do adjust around that as well. So I learned that the hard way,
Yeah.
I would say, that,
Yeah.
it impacted me. And then I realized that no, if a client calls in, I respectfully tell them that, Sunday is one day that I taken off. So maybe we can schedule tomorrow, definitely. So
Yeah. So
that's
it
how,
sounds
learning to say a no, but in a assertive manner so that, the other person is not feeling offended or bad about it.
right.
Telling that, yes, we're here to help, we can do this work, but if it's not urgent, maybe I would give it by tomorrow.
Mhm. Yeah, that it sounds like you and I are similar in that way, where it's called, oh, I call it a fire plan. So in the United States, in elementary school, most of us have these fire drills. And, in case of a fire, where do you go? So, in case of a crisis, where do you go? You meet at the oak tree, you meet at the neighbor's house, you call 911, and you create this, it's called a fire plan. And so, what's helpful, it sounds like for you, is you had that fire plan. So if a client calls you in the weekend, here's my response and here's what I'm going to do. And I find that's helpful for me too, because if I don't have that fire plan in place, I will automatically say yes and I'll just figure it out because that's my habit. And so having that fire plan in place, thinking ahead of time. Okay, so if a work project comes up and I'm really interested in it, first I'm going to look at my calendar. I'm going to see what open spots I have and if it fits. If a client comes into the conversation, I'm going to see where that can fit in my timeline. If a friend's asked me to drive somewhere, I'm going to see where that can go first, and then I will respond. So, having that fire plan in place is, I think, an essential part of setting boundaries, thinking about it ahead of time so that you can respond instead of reacting. Because a lot of us, if we just react, it might be lead us into that same cycle of burnout and stress that we are trying to avoid. So that is a really helpful, it's a really helpful tip. Thanks for sharing that.
Yes, definitely, because it does affect you. I had seen patterns in my work life itself. Like, I would take sessions at 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. also earlier.
Hmm.
But then later it got to me because then it was frustrating for me as well that, why am I doing this? I didn't feel
Hmm.
like taking the session. And then that's something that I'm not giving 100% to the client as well. So, as I said earlier, also, if the client needs it, they would come up on a suitable time for both of us. So, we can, of
Right.
course, definitely adjust around sometimes, but we need to set our boundaries and priorities very
Yeah.
clear that, okay, like for example, if a client or a person, an individual wants to go for a movie, the movie timings are fixed. We cannot change the show timings, right? So we adjust our routine according to the show timings because we want to watch that show,
Yeah.
right, in a theater near us. Similarly, if they want the appointment, if they want to seek help from a therapist or any other situation also, then they have to make that time. Of course, the
Hmm.
person whom you're reaching out, they also might adjust a little bit. But this I've learned that, if they really want,
Right.
they would come back. I
Yeah.
don't need
Yeah,
to hold on
exactly.
to them and trust them for
That's
my
a really great
routine.
point. Yeah, that's a really great point. And something else sparked in me too of along with the fire plan, you were saying you also let that person feel like they were heard. Like I hear you that you want to meet at this time and you have this concern. I can't do that for you, but here's what I can do. And I think that's been helpful for me. Like, no is a complete sentence, but even for me, I have trouble just saying straight out no. I do feel like I want to give some sort of explanation. So I will say, if it's a project at work, I'll say, I'm I can't help right now. So if you need it right now, you may want to ask so and so who also is an expert in ABC. Or, no, I can't do that. But here is a quick alternative that could also help you with that. So I try to provide the no and another possible solution, even though no is a complete sentence. But for me personally, it is hard to just say no outright. It's something I'm working on personally. So giving, if it helps you, for those of you out there where no, it is just hard to say outright no, like you said, giving an alternative is an option, explaining um, why, and then also I like to provide an alternative if they need something immediately.
Definitely. And I would say you're not alone here who has difficulty in saying a no. There are so many people who come to me and say that, it's very difficult for us to say a no,
Yeah.
because you tend to do that work, whether it's workplace, whether it's relationship, whether it is maybe school, college, whatever it is, it's difficult between friends also to say a no, that no, I can't lend you this, or, I can't give you this. So it becomes difficult and they end up doing things against their own will. So a better option is avoid the term no altogether. Maybe say that
Mm.
I would love to help you, but I already have a scheduled appointment of this, or
Yeah.
I can help you with this, but can we do it later in the evening today? Right now, I'm a little busy. So you're not saying
Hmm.
no, but you're politely respecting their needs. You are saying that I can help you, but at a different time and or at a different day. And at the same time, you're also not using the term no, but also putting forward your own opinion that you
Mm.
can't do this right now. So
Right.
using more of assertive terms rather than terms with I can't do this or I won't do this or I will not be able to do this or straight up
Hmm.
no. Because when you say a no, the other person will not be open to hearing anything post that, whether the reason is valid, rational or not.
Mm.
It's shut. After no, the gates of your brain are shut. So after that,
Yeah.
say for example, if we had a meeting today and I would say, no, I can't take it because you won't see what's after because. I said a
Mm.
no, I'm done. It might frustrate you at the term no. So first, use the reason. Oh, I really
Mm.
understand you want it. It's urgent. Maybe I could help you half an hour later. Is that fine with you? Is that a suitable time for you? So you're respecting their needs. You're asking them whether they're
Sure.
available. You're also saying that you would help. So this is assertive communication.
That's a really good tip. Yes, for all of us that that have struggle with that. And I think the other piece of this, if someone is constantly not respecting your boundaries, what I know I've been in that situation too, and I get really frustrated and annoyed, but I keep doing what they're asking. And so of course they're going to keep asking because I keep bending over backwards to do what they say. So if there's that constant pressure from that person, what suggestions do you have?
So if there's a constant pressure, you see how you can take the conversation. Once or twice you try and
Mm,
make the other person understand that what exactly is going on and how you can help them or how you are unable to do their work. And later, if it's not happening, then you need to also understand that it's time to say upfront that, hey, I have been trying
mhm.
to explain you a lot of times and I have tried helping you out, but it doesn't seem to work out. Maybe you can go to so and so person for help. Or maybe you can, reach out to somebody else because this is not something that I can be helpful or I can help you with.
Yeah,
So at
that's
that
great.
time, it's your responsibility to be very honest and transparent, maybe very straightforward, and say, because you've tried 5 to 10 times and things are not working out, then maybe the 11th time, either ignore and move forward because there's no
Mm,
point, making the other person understand when you've tried a lot. So in that, you need to understand that you've given your 100% efforts, you've done everything. Now things are not in your control; they're beyond your control because the other
yeah,
person is not understanding. So that's not your responsibility. That's their
yeah,
point of view. It might not change.
yeah.
So at that
That's
point,
great.
you need to understand, leave it, and move on.
Yeah, and that's a tough realization to come to sometimes, but you're absolutely right. That's sometimes where you have to get in a relationship because at that point it's more of a transactional relationship anyway. They're not respecting you as a person. And so they're just seeing you as it's a transaction. And that's not a relationship that I want to be in, that's for sure. Well, I have just noticed the time and we're kind of coming up on our the time that we have together today. So I just wanted to recap some of the conversation that we had because I think there's a lot of really great takeaways that came out of this conversation. So first, thinking about burnout and reflecting on your priorities. What are your priorities, and are you living into those priorities, or are you living into your values is really important in preventing burnouts. The next thing that I really liked about our conversation is creating that fire plan. So if something comes into play and it's in conflict with your values or your priorities, creating that plan in place, that how you are going to respond and not just react, and how to, you said it so wonderfully, how to address that person's concern without necessarily shutting them down immediately, but giving alternative options that work within your boundaries and within your priorities and values, which is great. And then the last part that I want to add is just this is a process. We're all living this out together. So just give yourself some compassion, breathe through it, and those were my main takeaways. Did you have anything else that you wanted to share or add, Simran?
Yeah, I would like to add on a few things like how can you notice whether it's a burnout or whether it's just
Mm,
overwork. So
sure.
burnout could manifest itself in the form of, say, lack of focus at work, lack of
Mm,
interest in going to work, just feel every day waking up in the morning and feeling like, oh, I have work today. I don't want to go to work. Not feeling like going to work, not feeling like attending the meetings, delaying the work, procrastinating a lot. Then lack of interest in the work that you've been doing. So these are
yeah.
2 to 3 things, or you delay work. So these are few things maybe you can recognize if somebody is going through this, and probably it could be a burnout. Maybe you need a break. So you can reach out to us, any of us. All our contact information would be in the description below.
Yeah.
And both of us are on LinkedIn and other social media. So feel free to reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much, Simran, for the conversation. It was great talking with you today. And as she shared, I'll put the description of where to get a hold of us in the description box, and we'll chat again soon, I'm sure. Good to see you.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye bye.